Well, hello and welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. We're going to suspend our reading of Proverbs for a while. We're going to return to the book of First Kings and Second Chronicles. Over the course of the next 4 days, we're going to read about the building and the dedication of the temple. We've waited a long time for this. I hope that you're excited that we finally get here. There's been so much stuff that led up to it, but now the temple is about to be built. When we left the book of First Kings over a week ago, we were told that Judah and Israel were numerous and that they were abundant, like the sand on the seashore, and that they were secure and bountifully provided for by God. God had indeed blessed them, just as he had promised that he would. So you kind of get an idea for how great these blessings are as you read about the provisions that were needed to keep Solomon's government running. Each of the 12 districts had to supply Solomon's government for a month, and those supplies would include 4,650 bushels of wheat, 9,300 bushels of meal, 300 fattened cattle, 600 pasture fed cattle, not to mention 3,000 sheep and various other animals and so on. God's blessings are just so immense. We're going to read. We read in the past briefly about the legendary wisdom and knowledge of Solomon before getting into the narrative proper associated. Or I'm sorry, we will read as you're reading today. You read a little bit about the legendary wisdom and knowledge of Solomon before we actually get into the narrative proper associated with with the building of the temple. But once we get there, it's kind of an amazing thing. The account of the building of the temple opens with a description of the alliance Solomon has with Hiram, the king of Tyre. He's a Phoenician ruler to the north of Israel. The relationship was first established by King David, and it remained strong through the period of the building of the temple and the palace complex after that, period of about 20, I believe about 20 years altogether. We will find out that relationship does sour right before Hiram's death, apparently due to an action by Solomon. But for the time being, this relationship, clearly provided by God, blesses both men and their kingdoms as craftsmen and materials are supplied by the Phoenicians to help facilitate, to help the nation of Israel as they build the temple. One note, I guess, regarding God's desire that Solomon build the temple rather than David, that's mentioned in our reading today. God wanted his temple to be built in a time of peace by a man of peace. It's not that there's some fault in David that God chose Solomon to build the temple rather than David, but simply the will of God that each would serve a particular role in God's plan of salvation. God gave David the great honor, gave David great honor in his role. And he gave Solomon great honor in his role. There's really no point in seeing one as greater or lesser than the other, one as more worthy or less worthy than the other. Their greatness is a gift of God. It's not something in themselves. We do well to remember that in our present day as well, in our present day relationships as well. Rejoice for those whom God gives very public roles in his kingdom, even as you give thanks for the maybe less public role that he's provided for you. These roles don't tell us anything about the worth of one person over another, but only demonstrate that God provides as he sees fit and as he needs for the good of his kingdom. Now, as you read, you may notice that there are notice the number of people that become involved in the building of the temple, and after that, the palace complex. It's a tremendous number of people. We learn from the Chronicles reading that many of those who labored were foreigners who lived in the land. But notice also that many full-blooded Israelites rotated on and off the work detail as well. And as you read about the size of the temple, remember that a cubit is it's about a foot and a half. So the overall temple was about 90 feet deep about 30 feet wide, 45 feet high. Those would be the inside dimensions. Notice also that in keeping with the temple being built by a man of peace in a time of peace, no hammers or axes or other noisy tools are used at the temple site. It was a holy and solemn site, and the temple was built in a manner befitting that. If you actually think a little bit about what that means for the preparation and the construction of it, it's just kind of a mind boggling thing. Also, as you read about the cherubim and the seraphim that are, I'm sorry, the cherubim that are engraved in wood, envision the glory of, or I'm sorry, if you read about the cherubim and the engraved wood that was throughout the temple, you can begin to envision the glory of that temple. Overall, this project takes about 7 years to complete. So, as you read through this, just kind of keep those things in mind. May God be with you and bless you as you read. I pray that your reading helps you, as always, to learn, to grow, to better understand. And I look forward to gathering with you again tomorrow.